Do you have that one friend who seems to know an insufferable amount about a lot of random subjects? The person who chimes in with the odd and sometimes highly disturbing fun fact. Well, my name is Carly, and I am that friend. I often find myself wondering about topics that range from the history of certain holidays to what makes some wines expensive and some a little on the cheaper side. So I make use of that mini supercomputer I carry everywhere and just look it up. Lately, I have decided to share the random knowledge that I acquire with all of you lovely listeners. So welcome to I'm Already Looking It Up. Let's have a drink and learn a thing or two. Hello. You're listening to I'm Already Looking It Up, where I, your host, research a random topic and tell you, my lovely listeners, all about it. So without further ado, let's get started. Hello again. So today my topic is another special birthday topic. I had a lot of birthdays to get through this spring, and I did not keep up with any of them. Yay! But it's another special birthday topic. This is for my other brother, the one who is closest to me in age. And he wanted me to talk about something to do with Norse mythology. And I know a lot about mythology. I love mythology. It's one of my favorite things to study. However, I have recently run into a couple of people, my brother included, who have told me that they have started practicing the Norse religion as their main religion, rather than, Christianity or any other of the well-known major religions today. So I actually thought I would kind of misunderstand the assignment a little bit and talk about Norse paganism in modern times and how it's celebrated and basically what it is. And I thought that would be interesting. And maybe for a future episode, I will take a deeper dive into the mythology of it all. But when it comes to mythology, there is a lot to cover and a lot to research. So it's really hard to, you really gotta put together a whole just thing for it. So that might be something I come back to. But for today, I thought we would go over what Norse paganism is, how it's practiced and celebrated today, and just, what's the deal? So, the article I'm going to be using for this is an article from the Troth, which is education on heresy, I think. And that is one of the names for... Sorry, heathenry. Heathenry, not heresy. I know what heresy is. That is one of the names for Norse paganism. The other is Asatru. I hope I'm saying that correctly. So we know I am infamous for not saying things correctly, probably. I don't know. I've been recording all these episodes one after another to try and catch up with all these topics. But at this point, I'm kind of just like, it is what it is. Anyway, so that is the article I'll be using. I do have a couple of more I might go through, depending on how long this episode is. But just know it might be a shorty one today, just because we're just going over kind of the basics of what Norse paganism is and how you practice it today. So the first question that someone usually has after finding out about a religion is to find out how to do it. Norse paganism, or Asatru, and heathenry are all names for basically the same religion, and this religion does have rituals and practices. We want to go through a few of the most important rituals. We will cover holidays and special rituals in our resources section, but for now, we just want to talk about the basics of heathen rituals so that you can get started. So that's the first paragraph. So the first thing that they talk about is how to convert to Norse paganism. There's no specific ritual for converting to Norse paganism, heathenry, or asatru. We wrote more about this in our blog. If you are joining a religious group, their own rules may have you do something like give an oath to the gods and to the group, like membership terms and conditions. Some religious groups do require oaths, others do not. An oath to the gods is not required. All right, gotcha. Make that very clear. Oath to the gods is not required. Membership in any particular group is not required to become Norse pagan, nor is taking any oath at all. Okay, so to become Norse pagan, you can just be Norse pagan. Nice. All right. The gifting cycle is the center of the faith. The gift cycle is how we engage with our gods and with each other and promote harmonious relationships. It says in the Havamal, be your friend's true friend, return gift for gift. And what does that mean? We give offerings to spirits, ancestors, and gods, and through these offerings, we deepen our relationship with them. A gift is something you give someone without expecting anything in return. It is not payment for services rendered or a bribe. It is not transactional. It's not a negotiation of power like you might see in witchcraft, where a witch uses their skills to work with a power beyond themselves to accomplish a goal or learn something. A gift cycle is a relationship which deepens through shared giving. I give to show you my friendship to you. You give back, and I trust you. I trust that you're a friend to me. If I stop giving gifts or you stop giving gifts, then that trust dissolves and that relationship ceases to grow. We believe that the gifting cycle doesn't just pertain to our relationship with other people, but to the spirits in the world around us and the gods. We believe our beloved dead are still with us and still care for us as much as they did when they were alive. Their spirits remain with us, and we show our continued affection and reverence for them by giving gifts. We believe the spirits in the world around us, the spirits of land and the spirits of our homes, can be engaged in a similar way, and we make offerings to them to deepen our relationship and promote harmony between us. All right. It's kind of cool. I kind of like that. Just very trustworthy, like how you make friends. While some of us like to focus our practice on these spirits, usually calling them Nordic animists, most people who are curious about our faith are curious specifically about our relationship to the gods. For many of us, the gifting cycle with the gods is mediated through sacrifice. The way we give our gifts to the gods is through sacrifice or blot. What does blot mean and where does it come from? Blot is the word in Old Norse for a sacrifice. There are different theories about where the word came from. Some schools of thought think it comes from Old Norse, the Old Norse word for blood, which would be consistent with how many of these sacrifices involve the ritual slaughter of livestock. Others believe that it comes from the same root as the verb to bless. The closer word to sacrifice is blessing, so that's the theory we're going with. What does sacrifice mean? This is important because it gets at the heart of what giving a gift to the gods really means. It isn't giving something casually. It's a special kind of giving where the gift itself is made holy or sacred. That is what sacrifice means in the original Latin. Sacra, holy/sacred, and facere, to make or do. In giving your gift to the gods, you elevate it to them. Yeah. You elevate it to them. Yeah. The ritual sacrifice, whatever it may be for you, is what takes an ordinary object of some material value and transforms it into a holy gift for the gods. That's why the ritual of blot is so important, so central to our faith. It's not merely giving something, it's transforming something of ordinary value into something holy or sacred. And then just a couple links there to other parts of their blog. As for the gods, many of us believe in the existence of the gods identified by names they were called by the different Germanic peoples. For most of us, that's Thor, Odin, Freya, Freyr, etc. In theory, you could try to worship all of them, but in practice, most heathens worship about 8 and only 3 or 4 with any regularity. Sometimes you'll find heathens who worship only one of the gods while acknowledging all the others exist. Those people usually have a relationship with a particular god that they might refer to as their patron or their full true, I'm messing it up, full true, or fully trusted one. A thought through prayer. Yes, the Vikings did pray. We're good. Yes, the Vikings did pray. You don't have to debate about it. It happened. They knelt, they prostrated, and who boy did they pray. Now that's out of the way, let's give you a basic structure to work from for prayer. All prayers don't have offerings, but all offerings have a prayer. Prayer can take the form of anything from the spontaneous to the elaborate, but a good basic structure that we like to follow is this one. Step 1, invocation. Name the god or goddess you want to pray to or offer to. We suggest using a few names or epithets of the deity that illustrate why you're praying to them in particular. Step 2, request/gratitude. After addressing the god, you can humbly make a request. Sometimes this can be something of desperate immediate need or something desired in the future. You can also express gratitude for something that has already been given. Step 3, offering. If you are making an offering, now would be the time to do it, along with a good description of the item being offered, prefacing why it's the gift you give. Closing. You can close with a phrase like "do utes," or a gift for a gift, or "hail and farewell," or "in your holy name I pray." Something that gives an impression of what it is you expect from the relationship you've established. That's as simple as it gets. For more elaboration, check out another place on their blog. Okay, so then they have devotional practices. I do think that's interesting because, it makes you think that when we talk about pagan religions or even just polytheistic religions in general, we don't talk a lot about prayer. And it almost feels like that in the way our history is taught, that prayer is very much a Christian thing. We pray to God or we pray to Jesus. But I think it's a thought that we don't really, and not a lot of people practice these pagan or polytheistic religions today. It's probably more now than it used to be, but it's not very common or widespread, and it's interesting to think about how a lot of these practices can be pretty similar to Christianity in some way. Even sacrifice is kind of an interesting thing that it does link to Christianity and everything. So it's fascinating how we separate those two types of religions so much, but there's a lot of similarities that we ignore. So I think that's cool. All right, so devotional practices. Devotional practices are an important part of the lives of most modern heathens, and they manifest in a lot of different creative ways. Some people take on fasting through the month before Ostera as a devotional practice for the Njord. Some others like to lift heavy weights for Thor. Let's see. Some people write poetry and songs for Odin. Others take up spinning wool as a devotional practice for Frigg. Heathens start gardening for Freyr Yingiv. Yeah. The list is endless because all different ways that heathens show their adoration and devotion to our gods in our lives is endless. Saying prayers, singing songs, making offerings are part of our spiritual lives, but so are these individual devotional practices. Devotional practices are developed by individuals and can be shared between people and communities. They aren't required as a general rule, but some groups may have specific devotional practices that they learn from specific teachers that mark them as separate from other group practices. Some groups might fast together while others might feast together at the same time. Devotional practices are part of the spice of what makes modern heathenry, there we go, special. It's the individual expression of devotion and creativity that makes it truly a living tradition. I like that too. I like that you can take something that you already know how to do, or even something you want to learn, and learn it, or just do it in the name of whichever god you feel fits, and that's neat. I like that. I like that a lot. I think that's a cool way to, be thankful for the skills that you have or the skills that you learn. To, even whether or not you believe that humans are a creation of some higher power. I think that's kind of cool. All right. Norse pagan holidays, historically attested blots. 3 high blots are mentioned in Snorri Sturluson's Heimskringla as being the pagans celebrated. Yule or Jol, either on winter solstice or for modern practice, or midwinter full moon, historically attested the first full moon of the new year. Sigurblatt, or Victory Blot, happens during the holy tide of summer nights, around the first full moon after the spring equinox, and Vetranator, winter nights, begins second full moon after the autumnal equinox, usually around mid to late October or to early November. Other common Satru holidays are Disting, second full moon of the new year, Ostera or Easter, full moon after the spring equinox, May Day, which is May 1st, Midsummer, summer solstice, and Lammas, first full moon after the autumnal equinox. We have collected some of the traditions of our members and are sharing them in our Heathen Holiday series. So pretty neat. I like that. It's also interesting, again, comparing between, Christianity or monotheism versus paganism. There is, and I know people are tired of hearing me bring this up, but it is true. There is such a weird clash of the holidays because, a lot of the time a Christian holiday erupted from a pagan holiday. The belief that Jesus was born on December 25th actually comes from the pagan winter solstice and how that works. So it's fascinating to see that these, a lot of what we know in history is Christians kind of damning these people for their pagan ways, when really a lot of their religion was either adapted from these pagan religions, or they're just very similar in general. So, pretty cool. I talk about it a lot around the holidays, how Christmas is a pagan holiday, but, it's fine. What do you do on heathen holidays? A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Not every holiday has to have a blot attached to it, but most of them do. Two things we always do during heathen holidays is feasting and sambol. What is sambol? Feasting and... See, now it's spelled differently. Symbol, the fun stuff. Feasting and symbol aren't necessarily religious in nature, strictly speaking, though in modern heathenry, there are a lot of religious elements that go into them, so it's important to go over them so you know what you'll encounter out there. All right, so feasting is exactly what it sounds like. It's the big party after the community blot. Traditionally, this would have been where the blot beast was carved up, cooked, and served. That's kind of cool. So they didn't waste animal meats. Like, they still cooked it and served it. It wasn't just killed and, like, left. I didn't know that. I think that's cool. I like that. That's interesting. Traditionally, the feast would be the responsibility of the host. The host would provide everything from the meal to the entertainment, and this was considered to be an incredible honor. Hospitality is one of our core values, so hosting a feast after a blot is both a great responsibility and a great honor, as anyone who has ever hosted a family Thanksgiving already knows. Hosted a family Christmas. But feasts don't have to be hosted by a single person or family. It can be a communal feast with everyone contributing what they can. It doesn't have to be a single person's property. It could be on a picnic ground. So, like most holidays in general. The point of the feast is to share each other's company and enjoy the good things that life has to offer. For more on feasting, at the end of all of these, it catches me off guard because they talk about like their blog and where you can go to learn more. But all right, yeah. So the basic kind of thing most people do is feast. We don't sacrifice things anymore, but that's pretty neat. Again, very similar to Christian holidays, because probably was adapted from Christian holiday or from pagan holidays. So Simbel, also rendered as Sumbel, is ritual drinking. Aha, the real fun stuff. I have myself some wine right here that I will take a drink of. Mostly because my throat was getting dry. It takes place after the feast. It is not ritual for the gods. It's ritual for the community. It puts people in a space to talk openly, to share, and to really get to know one another in a space that is safe and supportive. Yeah, say that about most family dinners these days. Even as this is a safe space, there are still expectations, decorum, and behavior. In modern tradition, a drinking vessel, usually a horn, but it can also just be a really nice cup, is either passed person to person and around, or a person is appointed as the cup bearer, who passes the cup from person to person. This is a physical representation of our forging our connection and a sort of reenactment of the sharing of mead between the Aesir and the Vanir at the conclusion of the war between them. That's cool. I like that too. I've never heard of that before, but that is neat. That is cool. I like that. All right. Aren't there rituals for other stuff like weddings? Yes, there are a ton of rituals for everyday life. Weddings, funerals, naming ceremonies, and house blessings. The thing is, a lot of it isn't typically codified and standardized, so what we can tell you is how some people have done them in the past and how some people do them now. We will have entries of these common rituals from our community to help you out and get started. Of course, feel free to reach out to our clergy if you want to know how they do it. The religion with homework, sort of. Asatru has a reputation for being a religion with homework. That's somewhat true. You can certainly get by just by being part of the community and learning some basics, but ultimately the homework is there to make you confident in building your own practices. The homework isn't there to make you feel dumb, it's there to build you up. Sort of like weights, isn't it? When you first pick up a heavy weight, you might feel weak, but if you keep going back to it, you'll eventually start to feel strong, and you'll seek out even heavier weights to lift. We're just here to spot you. That's neat. I like that. Does Asatru have holy books? The short answer is no, but the longer answer is that there are some books that are considered to be holy texts by some of us, though we don't all agree which texts are holy and which ones aren't. None of the texts that we have were written, nor were they ever credibly claimed to be written by actual pagans or people who were sympathetic to the pagan belief itself. These texts were, in some cases, written 100 or more years post-conversion. The Poetic Edda, I don't know, is a collection of Iron Age skaldic poetry which contains some of the most vivid references to the gods and the stories people were supposed to have told about them. The Prose Edda, or Edda, is a sort of handbook for skalds written by Icelandic statesman Snorri Sturluson. I don't mean to laugh, and I'm sorry if I offend anyone by laughing at that, but that is quite the name. It contains explanations for some of the references in skaldic poetry called kennings, which are like word puzzles that reference something through metaphor or through reference to a story about it. That's neat, honestly. I would probably enjoy that part of it. It's kind of like puzzle solving. The Heimskringla sagas, especially the Ynglinga saga, the saga of Hakon the Good, the saga of Olaf Tryggvason, and the saga of Olaf Haraldsson, later known as St. Olaf, were another work by Snorri which purported to chronicle the history of Scandinavia and the origins of the dynasties that would come to rule it. This was a deeply political work, an example of how Snorri used both statecraft and literature to achieve its goals. Beowulf, which most people have probably heard that name before, is an epic Anglo-Saxon poem about the heroic adventure of a Yiddish prince named Beowulf who ascends through his deeds to become a mighty king. There's monsters, fights, adventures of all kinds, and references to pre-Christian culture and ritual, as the poem is supposed to take place in a period before conversion. That's really interesting because I do remember, I've never read Beowulf. I have, however, seen, there was this one movie that was like, I think it was live action, but it was also kind of weirdly animated. Like Angelina Jolie was in it, but not really. It was strange. Anyway, that's all I really remember about anything about Beowulf. But and then the Gesta Danorum, or the History of the Danish People, by a monk named Saxo Grammaticus. I love that name. Is another collection of stories, some of which are about pre-Christian times. The first books are in a combination of historical narrative and some tales about heroes and the gods. But none of these are holy texts in the sense that most people take them to be the undisputed truth. Most of us read them as literature and use them to look for clues about the religious and social values of the people whose religion we are reconstructing. I like that too. I like that there's not like a literal translation into like this is what the religion is and this is what you have to do and blah blah blah. It's very relaxed. It feels like, as long as you're doing it in good faith to what you believe in and what some others believe in, then it's, you're doing it right, and that's cool. That's neat. We are 3 generations into the heathen revival, so reinventing the wheel isn't required. While you're free to read whatever you like and reconstruct your own ways, some heathen communities now are 3 generations into their practice. It's all great that people are curious about primary sources, but if you don't want to go through all that, it's perfectly valid to find a community whose practice you appreciate and just go with the flow and learn by doing. I like that a lot. That is lovely. What a lovely article about Norse paganism. Fascinating. All right. I want to kind of look at these other two other two articles I saved just in case. But I think most of them are gonna say a lot of the same stuff. So I don't want to bore ya. Yeah, a lot of it looks pretty much the same. So yeah, like I said, this is a rather short episode, but again, I just kind of wanted to look into the religion and how it's practiced today. Because, again, I think that we get so rooted, especially here in the United States, we get so, rooted in the fact that, Christianity was so huge for such a long time that we forget that there were religions before that, and they were religions, not just these pagan practices with sacrificing and debauchery or anything like that. Some of them were very strict, even in Greek. The original Grecian religion could be very strict, and the Roman religion could be very strict. So it's very interesting to kind of look at these other pagan religions, and you look at, especially with Norse paganism having such a strong connection to Vikings, and that's not to say that not all Vikings are Norse pagan, and not all Norse pagan are necessarily Vikings, but it's interesting to take a look at these other ones and really see how, before Christianity spread and was, a massive religion in the world, a lot of these practices that we continue to do now are still, were there for a long time. And I don't know, religion is a very interesting concept to me. Just because I don't necessarily have a specific religion that I subscribe to. I consider myself agnostic, meaning I believe in a higher power. I just don't know what that higher power is, or, I don't know if it's, a god or multiple gods or any of that. I just think that there's probably something, but who knows? And I find it fascinating to look at these different religions and see their origins and where they come from, and then just kind of compare and contrast, and that's interesting. Humans are predictable and not all at the same time. So, but I think we'll leave it there for today. Thank you for taking the time to listen today, and if you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe and share it. It really helps me out. Thanks again. I'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you for listening to I'm Already Looking It Up. If you're enjoying the podcast, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, you can go to my Patreon at patreon.com/wildforestproductions. Don't forget to check out all the social links below. Thank you.